I've done a lot of Theater of Blood in my RuneScape days, and I've spent a lot of time watching beginners rise from the ashes, start consistently getting KC, and even getting the Grandmaster Combat achievements. This video will be your first step in becoming a Tob expert. I guarantee almost every new player struggled through these mistakes, and I also have some advice for helping beginners get faster KC and higher completion rates. Verzik is undoubtedly the hardest part of the Theater of Blood for most beginners, and I attribute that to the chaotic nature of the boss, right? There's a lot to focus on at once, and there's some timing that can be tricky. So the first two mistakes will be on her, and what I believe are the most detrimental mistakes to getting KC. The first being taking too many purple tornadoes during her enraged phase. As a learner, you want to stay at a higher HP, and because the heal from the tornado is based on your HP, it's going to heal her a lot. You could stay at a lower HP and prevent these massive heals, but that's a bad idea since one melee, one crab, or a chain of mist prayers can immediately kill you. The other thing is most learners are going to be using tent whips or maybe a cell door. It is very difficult to out DPS the tornado heals on top of the chaos of learners. You'll rarely be attacking at your weapon's intended attack speed, and many of your hits will be brewed down. There's also a good chance a teammate will have died before now. So my advice to you is to slow down. As soon as the enraged phase begins, try to locate your tornado and get some space from it. I say this in a lot of my top videos, and that death at Verzik is usually from a chaotic moment, not from running out of supplies. If you and your team make dodging tornadoes a priority and ensure that HP bar rarely increases, you will see a lot more completions. Okay, the next mistake brings us to phase 2 of Verzik. We're going to be talking about the scythe walk, the step back method, whatever you want to call it. You need to learn and master this mechanic. Using a makeshift alternative that feels easier is going to hurt you in the long run. It will lead to less consistency and more missed attacks. I guarantee it. My biggest advice here is to simply rely on the poison splat visual cue. In order to get into this cycle, stand 2 to 3 tiles away from her, and when you see her body move, click on her. Once the poison splat is visible, click on it. As soon as your character moves, immediately click back onto her. Now of course Verzik has other attacks like the lightning or the crabs, and that won't give you a visual cue, but I'm not worried about you making a mistake there because after a few raids, that poison splat visual cue will build the muscle memory required and you won't even need it to start the walk. And the reason I think mastering this mechanic is so important is because very often getting kicked cascades into more issues. Almost always you will take a good chunk of damage, and now you have to focus on brewing while also dodging Verzik's attacks, crabs, and whatnot. The third mistake I see is not learning proper defense reduction. Correct defense reduction is not only essential for getting KC, but also for speeding up KC. One way to look at it is the faster you complete each room, the more time you get to practice. And the most times, players need practice at Verzik, so speeding through the less challenging rooms is very advantageous. Something I like to do in my guides is give the big idea. I will link a more in-depth procedure below, but I also understand you might be running raids with random players, not a organized team, and so let's do a quick breakdown. At Maiden, land 2 to 3 mauls or hammers and follow up with 1 to 2 Rallo specs or 1 to 2 BGS specs. At Bloat, do 1 to 2 BGS specs, not super necessary here, but it's worth it especially in 4 to 5 man teams. At Niloboss, do 1 to 2 BGS specs, 2 if the first one hit below 15. At Sodaseg, never BGS unless you don't have a maul or hammer. Optimally, try to land 2 mauls or hammers each phase. At Zarpus, you want to do 2 to 3 mauls followed by 2 BGS specs. That's usually enough. And finally, make sure you are not BGSing before players use their hammers, and while these guidelines are on the safer side, it's better to overdo defense reductions rather than underdo it. And that's it. I highly recommend you check out the link below if you want a more detailed guide, and also download the Party plugin, Hub Party plugin, and Party Defense Tracker plugin to really learn and see what defense bosses are at. Okay, mistake 4, not learning the Nyla's room. As you've noticed, some mistakes are focused on getting you KC and others are focused on improving your efficiency. The vast majority of Tobbers don't understand this room past the basic fundamentals, which is completely okay. But once you're getting through this room consistently, you should implement what I'm about to say in order to get faster KC and become a better Tobber. And what's funny is I give this breakdown to people trying to get the GM speedruns. It really goes to show how complicated this room can be and that it's not very intuitive. First, I recommend you download the Nylower plugin. I know, a lot of plugins, but they do help. Overall, this is optional, but highly recommended. In the Nilocus room, waves will spawn with small and large crabs. During this time, there's something called a cap. meaning if there are more crabs in the room than the cap allows, the waves will stop spawning. You want to kill the crabs before the cap is reached, and we can do that or increase the likelihood of that happening by following a few general rules. If you downloaded the plugin, I will be giving you specific waves, but you can also break down this room into a beginning, middle, and end portion. During the beginning, or waves 1 through 10, you want to focus on shooting the big crabs before they enter the room as they are walking down the lane. The reason for this is because they take time to break into the smaller guys, and if you pop them once they enter the room, they will multiply quickly. Remember, we want to prevent the cap from being reached, and in order for that to happen, we can't be having downtime waiting for the little guys to appear. It's going to take you time to learn where to look and which lane your designated crabs will spawn, and that's completely okay. The idea here is to help you understand what you should be focusing on this room beyond don't let the pillars fall. So beginning, or waves 1 through 10, focus on killing big crabs before they enter the room and kill small crabs while doing so. During the middle portion, or waves 10 through 20, a lot more big crabs will spawn, and you need to do your best to keep the room as empty as possible. Because this is a beginner video, I will simplify this, but I have a more detailed guide in video format if you are interested. Prioritize killing small crabs and delay killing big ones unless the room looks relatively empty of smalls. Just a reminder, if you don't see any crabs your color, just do a one-way weapon switch and help out the other players. Don't worry about a multiple gear switch, we're just looking to get the concepts down. So the middle portion, or waves 10 through 20, prioritize smalls and kill a few bigs if there aren't many smalls. For the later and end waves, or 20 through 31, your new priority is to kill all the big crabs as soon as possible. Just like the beginning, this includes shooting big crabs while they are walking down the lane. Another really important thing to know is that after wave 20, the cap doubles, so there will be a lot more crabs in the room and it will feel a lot more hectic. The final note I have for you is focusing on killing the newest crabs. So if you see the number above their head, you want to kill the highest number, and that's because every Nilo is on a death timer. So by killing the highest number, the older crabs will naturally die on their own, which is really good. If you don't have the plugin, focus on the crabs just entering the room. So that might have felt like a fire hose of information, but like I said, this gives you something to at least focus on if you're already getting completions. Most players don't know much about this room, so if you can simply apply one thing for this mistake, take it as a huge W. And for the final mistake, playing too safe. Hear me out on this. When I say playing too safe, I don't mean playing risky with low HP or greeting extra hits when you're not sure. I actually advise against this and tell people to play safer. If you're a low HP, take a step back, heal, and then start attacking again, right? When you're dead, you provide no value, and the supplies you died with can be the difference. So playing safe in that sense is actually a good idea, and staying alive means time spent learning. What I mean by playing too safe is avoiding learning mechanics such as the scythe walk at P2 that we talked about earlier. And the reason I think this is so important is because something I hear all the time is how difficult it is to find teams with low KC. And I remember being in the exact same spot when I was trying to learn hard mode Tob. By learning the difficult mechanics and not straying away from fear of dying or losing KC, you are investing in your skills. You need to be practicing things like running webs, the scythe walk, properly tanking Verzik, maybe scythe walking at Zarpus if you have one. This is going to give you the skill set to carry teams and guarantee teams. At the end of the day, people don't want to raid with you because they think you'll ruin their raid. But if you spend your first 10 KC learning things the right way, instead of brute forcing and getting KC by luck, you're gonna have a much better time. I remember throwing my first hard mode Tob raids because I didn't know how to scythe walk at Zarpus, and instead of just using a blowpipe, I failed over and over. But I kind of applied this to all parts of the raid. I learned the content the right way and eventually was put into positions where I was at 9 KC, carrying people with 30 KC, still learning those mechanics. So I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. Spend the upfront cost of failure to learn things the right way, even if that means losing KC. You do not want to have 100 KC and not know how to tank Verzik, but try to push your limits, and I think you'll be happy you did so. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and learned at least one thing. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.